Hi everyone, welcome back to the third episode of my podcast. And today's topic is going to be how to be okay with being average. I think that a lot of us struggle with this fear or the feeling that we think we're really good at something, but when we actually go out there and see the world and give it a try, we realize that we are actually just very average at best. So, the simple answer to this question is to remember our privilege and to be grateful, because the only person we should be comparing ourselves to is our past selves. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people. But I also prefer to deep dive on this topic and explore this concept until it resonates personally. So let's get into it. So, first of all, we have to let go of our childhood conditioning that we are special, unique individuals. So, what that means is all of us are set up for disappointment from a very young age, especially those of us who had a relatively happy, worryless, and uneventful childhood. As children, we felt special and unique because our caretakers loved us. Life as a child was simple. When we did something easy like putting our socks on, our parents and extended family would tell us that we're excellent and we're the best kid in the world, something along those lines at least. And in school, teachers used to give us compliments and stickers for following instructions, behaving well, performing well, and others got prizes for being on top of the class and then praised as being gifted or a talented learner. We need to remember that as young children, we are conditioned to feel like we are capable of doing anything because of the messaging and education that we receive. So it's no wonder that we feel extremely average as adults. As adults, no one will tell us how great we are every day without fail anymore. Most days we are criticized more than we are complimented. At the very least, our contributions and well-intentioned deeds often go unnoticed by people who care for us and people we work with, who are the people we spend the most time with. On the other hand, our minor mistakes and personal faults seem to carry disastrous consequences at home, at work, or in our relationships. When I was a young child, for example, I thought I could conquer everything in the world if I tried. But now, as an adult, I'm just thinking every day that my life is finite, my days are numbered, and I'm a regular person. Every day I'm making ordinary choices to choose the joys and regrets that I prefer to have, because that's my reality. By letting go of our childhood conditioning that we are special, unique individuals, we are free to become normal, ordinary, average, human. The moment that I realized that not all of us can be special statistically, I just wanted to be special to myself and the handful of people that I loved and cared for the most. Number 2, challenge core beliefs from our childhood trauma. and realize that we're not as average as we might think we are. In therapy, the importance of recounting and processing unhappy events from our childhood lies in the fact that several early experiences in our lives will have shaped our core beliefs about ourselves and the world we inhabit. Core beliefs are strongly held, rigid, and inflexible beliefs that are maintained by the tendency to focus on information that supports the belief and ignore evidence that contradicts it. The reason why we are perpetually frustrated with being average may be due to underlying negative core beliefs that we have developed with or without knowing, such as I am unworthy or unloved or unvalued. I'm not good enough. I never get it right. I don't deserve good things. And there is no point in life. I have resonated with all of these beliefs at some points in life, and I believe a lot of my peers have too. I don't think there is any shame in feeling these feelings because they can all be traced back to personal unfortunate events, which are the reasons that brought up these difficult thoughts. Now that we are adults, most of us have left the restrictive and hostile environments that we were once in, or even accepted the traumatic events that happened to us. So there is no reason to continue holding on to these feelings and to let the past continue to control our present. Even though these core beliefs are strongly held by some of us, we can challenge them and begin to see if our core beliefs really hold up against all that we have experienced. For me, this exercise helps me realize that my feelings of being average are actually tied to my self-deprecation. However, the evidence is not convincing. For example, looking back, I've gone through some difficult times that were not ideal for my physical and mental health, but I survived them. I've conquered every challenge that life has thrown at me, and I'm still here, growing and trying every day. I'm also not unloved or unvalued. Quite on the contrary, I have my chosen family and a loving partner whom I love and loves me back. At the very least, I'm not incapable because I am attempting to unlearn my core beliefs, heal, and break cycles of intergenerational trauma. If all of the above evidence still makes me average, then I must be very good at being average. Number 3 is to be cautious of the unending hedonic treadmill. Why do I still think that I'm average despite being a doctor? Why do you still think you're average despite being everything that you are? This can biologically be explained by the effect of the hedonic treadmill. The hedonic treadmill makes us constantly on the lookout for happier, better lives. The hedonic treadmill, also known as hedonic adaptation, is the observed tendency of humans to quickly return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events or life changes. According to this theory, if a person makes more money, expectations, and desires also rise in tandem, which results in no permanent gain in happiness. I also read a study somewhere, which I think I should credit back to Ali Abdaal's videos on YouTube, that humans' levels of happiness often return to their baseline levels after spiking, for example, after reaching our goals, after 3 months. So, since we've evolved this way as a species, once we reach our first goal we've set for ourselves, we are already looking onwards and upwards to reach our next goal. And once we achieve our new goal, you guessed it, we move on to the next one in search for more dopamine. Which brings me to my next point. Number 4, kill comparison. Comparison kills joy. When we set goals, we look to people ahead of us to see what they have that we don't. The reason that I can't shake off my feelings of being average is because even as a doctor, I still compare myself to others. I notice others' families, work, travel, social events, income, relationships, appearances, and even what I perceive as their levels of happiness, which is so inaccurate and unfounded. And I compare them to those parts of myself. The list is endless. This is extremely exacerbated by my use of social media, where I often compare others' highlight reels to my real, mundane, regular life. After limiting my use of social media last year, especially Instagram actually, I noticed how easily reusing it triggered my feelings of inadequacy or inferiority. We have all been naturally and subconsciously programmed to think and say the Chinese idiom 一山還有一山高, which means there is always a taller mountain, instead of 一山還有一山低, which translates to there is always a lower mountain. Objectively, both are true, but we never acknowledge the latter. Indeed, there will always be people ahead of us, but there will always be people behind us as well. So why don't we ever compare ourselves to them? It sounds counterproductive or in opposition to the meaning or purpose of life to compare ourselves to those who are worse off than us. But we all like to be the best versions of ourselves, to be constantly growing, learning, and improving from our past selves. As a result, the only distance we should examine is not the distance between ourselves and others, but it should be the distance between the present us and the past us. We should only be comparing our current selves to the past versions of ourselves. When we actually see and appreciate the progress that we've made from day one, being average is no longer a frustration or something negative, but instead it's something we can delight in. It suggests that there are things that we are doing right and therefore continue to have reasons to persist in whatever we are doing so that we can be even better than who we are today. Number 5, life is easier for the average person. The people who are best at what they do and people who are the most privileged, famous, wealthy, beautiful, smart, and popular have their own set of struggles that they would not wish on their sworn enemies. These people often suffer from troubled psyches, battling the demons that come with their eliteness, either as the cause or as the outcome, like ungenuine friendships rather, and relationships, a lack of privacy, loneliness, a fear of failure or losing what they've achieved, narcissism, selfishness, and both voluntary and involuntary commodification of the self, to name a few. As an average person, one can enjoy the joys of not being at the top because there is a certain anonymous feeling and freedom that comes with being average that is often underrated. Being average absolves us from certain regrets and sorrows. For example, I've slowly realized that the glorified merits of being a doctor are overrated. The other side of the coin to being celebrated as someone who saves lives, who works a noble cause with a good income, is actually working under immense pressure every day with no room for error, for long hours at a time, and being expected to sacrifice health and relationships. I've met doctors who were put on a pedestal, after which they become untouchable, isolated, and even suffer from a God complex. That scares me. To be honest, I don't really know too many doctors who are actually happy at their jobs, in Hong Kong at least, as of today. I now try to remind myself that all types of honors and prestige will also come with sacrifice, regrets, and pressure, or else everyone could do it. I hope this episode was helpful in any way. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.